against my will to talk to Dream.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new Slum Your video. I hope you're having a good day. I certainly am, because let me paint a picture for you. You're sitting on the couch, you're doing absolutely nothing, pondering what your next slop video is going to be about, and you receive a message saying they're doing it again with a link attached. You open up this message and see TommyInnit, Jack, Manifold, and Dream in the thumbnail. It's safe to say, I got just a little bit excited. Because, ladies and gentlemen, yes, Jack, Manifold, and TommyInnit are yet again speaking about Dream on their podcast and using him in the thumbnail and title for clicks, even though apparently they're moving on, which is something they do actually bring up in this video, which I'm so glad they did. But ladies and gentlemen, strap in, because you are in for one hell of a ride.
Worst moment.
All right, Tom, look, I'm
Jesus.
I'm gonna do it.
Do what?
We said we wouldn't, but I can't help.
I just can't help talking about Dream and then complaining that he talks about us too much and that, you know, we've just got to move on.
But I've been at VidCon, and as you know, there's many creators that go to VidCon.
Oh.
You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Someone who fits one of those descriptors, I won't say which, I met them. I saw them. Right, I'm not beating around the bush anymore. I was forced to have a chat with Dream.
Oh no, the shock horror. You just say hi to the guy, you move on, you have a regular encounter like anybody else that might bump into Dream or somebody they dislike at VidCon. This is a common experience, especially with lots of other commentators that did actually go to VidCon. They bumped into people that maybe they spoke negatively about, and they just got on with it. They put their issues aside because everybody's there just to have a good time. There is really no issues that need exposing in the conversation that Jack Manifold is about to bring up, and it just comes across as pretty shitty from him.
And that's my worst moment of the week. I was forced against my will to talk to Dream. I didn't want to. I walked into the toilet at a gathering. There's a guy in the stall. Somehow my spidey sense was tingling. I just had a feeling who was
toilet.
I was in the toilet. I peed at the urinal because I don't have cock shame.
It's just an utterly weird, bizarre, quite frankly disturbing slight of Dream for no reason. He might just prefer to use the cubicle. We didn't really need that comment. It just wasn't necessary, was it, whatsoever?
Anyway, there's a guy in the stall. There's a guy in the stall. For some reason, I'm at the sink washing my hands, but I've got my spidey senses were tingling, man. Like,
Are you sure you want to break our rule of moving on for this?
Was that TommyInnit saying about breaking the rule of moving on from Dream? Well, was that TommyInnit that just said that? I picture Curb Your Enthusiasm's theme playing. I can't play it here because it's copyrighted, but I did over on Twitter.
Sure you want to break our rule of moving on for this?
Like us. This is incredibly inspiring, and I have high hopes for an Oscar nomination for my video titled Dream.
Meta AI is up to date. So I'm like, Meta, was he being a dick? It's like, both people have sides of the story. No, Meta, you don't get it. He was being a dickhead. No, Meta, he messaged my mum. So I get really intense with it.
It's r/TommyInnit and r/Dream was taken. And I'd look, you can't unmod yourself. And it's had to take me great restraint because as a mod, it's not like a Twitch mod. You have like unlimited power.
That was a little weird. Must have been the wind.
It better be good. It better be good.
Yeah, because of what was said.
Okay, now I've made the joke and the joke's over. I've actually got to talk about this because it's genuinely absurd that TommyInnit of all people is talking about this rule, this infamous rule to move on from Dream, move away from Dream, and, you know, just move past it. When he has mentioned him at every turn in every piece of content. He's put him in thumbnails, titles. He spoke to AI about the most recent Dream drama, asking if he's won. He's cropped up absolutely everywhere, and TommyInnit has had no issue with talking about him on Twitter, being incredibly disgustingly rude and throwing stuff at Dream for no reason, constantly talking about Dream and being the one to bring it up, and then he goes, you know, that rule about us moving on, you know, we're moving on. TommyInnit purely says this to keep his already angered fans on his side, that, you know, I'm not milking Dream, I'm not going to talk about him, I'm trying to be respectful, I'm the one who's been mature, I'm the one who's moving forward. It's us guys, we're the one moving forward, not Dream. Dream's moving backwards and can't stop talking about us. I also completely forgot that they mentioned him in this clip where they baited the entire internet and just sent Dream a bunch of hate for no reason over a joke.
The reason me and Dream's relationship fell apart is because he tried to get with my girlfriend.
It's fine, it's all about moving on unless you can clip farm and, you know, make a joke like that you know will get clipped up maliciously and posted on the internet and send Dream a bunch of hate.
I was gonna never mention it. And genuinely, I was never gonna mention this. I was gonna keep it to myself. But there was one thing said that.
So what? He emerged from the stool.
Listen, will you let me finish?
All right, sorry. So from the stall, he came out with pooey hands.
No, listen. I'm in the toilet. My spidey senses are tingling. For some reason, I just had a feeling I knew who was in that stall.
Shut up.
There was a feeling in my soul that told me I knew he was going to walk out, and my feeling was correct. Dream steps out of the store.
I'm sure Jack Manifold really didn't want to share this absolutely nothing burger story. I'm sure he didn't want to put him in the title and thumbnail. You know, if they really didn't want to talk about Dream or anything like that, mention his name or talk about him anymore in this podcast, he really didn't want to do that, then there's a thing called editing where you just crop that section out and you don't put him in the title and thumbnail.
And I'll be
Poo
honest,
hands.
there was a no, leave his hands on. He was probably peeing. Anyway, right, he steps out the store and he looks at me and he chuckles to himself, and I think, I get it. I get the chuckle. I was like, no, honestly, there is something.
Were it tense?
No, it weren't 10, but there was a chuckle, and I went, yeah, no, to be fair, there is something really amusing about the awkward energy of it just being only me and him in the toilet.
In a bathroom?
Like, there's no one else to talk to. We can't ignore each other.
I mean, you just have a polite and pleasant conversation. That's not hard. You don't have to cuss the guy out, bring up any controversy. I mean, Dream does bring up something which I think is pretty funny when we get to it, but even when Dream does that bring up, you just kind of laugh it off and then you leave and have a pleasant conversation and then don't talk about it on your podcast. I mean, this goes back to TommyInnit and Jack Manifold's huge hypocrisy stuff with, you know, really not giving a shit what they say. They've said that they're moving on. We're not going to mention Dream anymore unless it directly benefits us. Unless something actually crops up that we can put in the title and thumbnail and might make for a good clip.
So he hits me with a, hey Jack, how you doing? I'm like, oh, hey buddy. Yeah. And then he goes, basically, you know what it was? I ran into his sister at VidCon, right? I weren't going to talk about it.
Maybe if you felt like that, you shouldn't talk about it. Regardless of the context that's about to come up, maybe you shouldn't just talk about it. Maybe if you genuinely felt like, yeah, I wasn't going to talk about it, and I don't think I should have talked about it, then, you know, just don't bring it up. It's really not that hard. TommyInnit and Manifold are pretty similar in this aspect, where they will say something like, I didn't want to do this, or I wasn't going to talk about this to make them seem like these most righteous people, like they're these really nice people that, you know, they've got priorities, they've got morals.
Because that's, you know, my beef isn't with her. She was perfectly pleasant and kind, and I have nothing bad to say. I was, you know what? Because at the end of the day, I'm not a piece of shit. But he turned around to me when I heard you met my sister. I went, yeah. And he went, I thought, and he went, I heard about that, and I thought to myself, shit, he's going to talk about it on his podcast.
By the way, that's the catalyst for Manifold going, yeah, I don't really care if I don't really want to talk about Dream's sister or anything else on this podcast. I'm going to do it anyway, because Dream made an incredibly tame joke about, oh shit, I thought that, yeah, maybe he might talk about it on his podcast, which, to be fair, is a pretty valid concern, because, I mean, they absolutely rinse Dream at every turn they can. They mention his name for absolutely no reason, just so they can get a few clicks and views. That's an incredibly inoffensive, tame, and pretty true joke that, you know, in the moment you should just laugh off. There is literally nothing wrong with that joke. He's trying to make light of a situation because you and TommyInnit genuinely do milk Dream at every corner and do consistently talk about him on his podcast. So he's not really lying.
And I thought to myself,
That's what he said.
That's what he said. And I went, oh, come on, I have standards. There's got to be an angle.
Of course. Like the angle of TommyInnit just randomly talking to AI about Dream.
But because it's up to date with everything that's happened this year. Is it? And that's it's Meta AI is up to date. So I'm like, Meta, was he being a dick? It's like, both people have sides to the story. No Meta, you don't get it. He was being a dickhead. No Meta, he messaged my
You know, the angle of clip farming and making a joke that you know is going to be cut out of context and which was intended to be cut out of context, where Dream is apparently stealing a girlfriend.
The reason me and Dream's relationship fell apart is because he tried to get with my girlfriend.
There are no interesting angles with any of this. It's just bring up Dream's name, know that this is going to get clipped, this is going to get talking about, this is going to get views. You probably would have mentioned the fact that you did bump into Dream's sister, even if it was just, there was a pleasant conversation, and that would have been it. I can guarantee that would have probably been said on the podcast with this podcast track record.
And of course, I'm not just going to talk about how I met your sister and it was not. I'm not going to do that for views. However, I will talk about the fact that you confronted me in a toilet about it.
And from even your own retelling of this, it's hardly a confrontation. You both walked into the toilet, you then both said hello to each other. He made a joke about, oh yeah, I heard that you bumped into my sister. I thought, oh shit, they might talk about it on the podcast. And that's it. That's not a confrontation. That's a pretty tame joke made in like of something that is pretty realistic to happen. That's not a confrontation whatsoever. It's just malicious and disingenuous framing to try and support your reasoning for bringing this up in the first place. I'm waffling about this for almost 4 minutes.
That's hilarious. That's really funny. And look, if I was to guess his intentions, I would say maybe he said that to me to bait me into talking about it on the podcast. Perhaps I'm playing directly into his hand. But you know what, Tom? I'm also playing directly right into my pockets, so I don't give a shit.
Or he might have just been making a tame, pretty reasonable joke about something that had just happened in an awkward situation to lighten the mood a bit and make it less awkward based on something that realistically could happen. It just isn't anything criticizable or anything to shit on Dream for here, and I honestly don't get it. I've shat on Dream and criticized him plenty on this channel, but this is just nothing.
Tom, I'm gonna reap the views this video will get. You're gonna do it as well. So really thank me, you know, at the end of the day.
I'm not going to feel as good about it, though.
I don't feel good about it, Tom.
Again, this is just done to go, look, I don't feel good about it. I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it regardless. If you genuinely didn't feel good about doing this, you would have just edited this out of the podcast and wouldn't have put it in the title and thumbnail.
You had to pay the price. You had to fucking
Look,
speak to
if I have to
Pooyans
chat, if
over
I have
there.
to cheat to, if I have to, Freudian slip. If I have to chat to him in the toilet, if I have to chat to the guy in the toilet when I don't want to, I should at least be making money from it. So, you know, I wasn't going to speak about it, man. You know, I do have standards.
Jack Manifold's awesome standards like clip farming, knowing that the clip farming in question will be taken incredibly out of context and get Dream a bunch of hate.
At the end of the day, I wasn't going to speak about meeting your sister. That's wrong. But you know what? You pushed me. You pushed that button and I had to. I don't have constraint. I don't have self-control. Yes, I'm being childish. Yes, I'm the one in the wrong.
I think you're morally questionable, you know?
Anyway, I came with a backup worst moment just in case you told me I shouldn't speak about Dream. I got really badly sunburned.
I do find it hilarious how it's very clear that Manifold and TommyInnit respectively, and mainly as a podcast, can't move on from Dream. They just simply can't, and it's genuinely sad at this point. They keep saying cope things like, you know, our rule about moving on and whatever, but that is just cope because they keep talking about the guy. Look, I'm not complaining in terms of I get to cover this on this channel and shit on TommyInnit a little bit more, even on Twitter and get a hit tweet. And also, I genuinely think you put a counter on that video how many times Manifold and TommyInnit kind of say the words of like, oh, I really didn't want to talk about this, or, you know, I wasn't going to talk about this, stuff along those lines to just make themselves seem so righteous and that, you know, we are the good people. We would have done this if he didn't make me do it. And look, I'm not just going to sit here and act like this is a TommyInnit thing when this is clearly as well a Jack Manifold thing, very clearly, especially in this situation. I mean, there is literally an account on Twitter of days since Jack mentioned Dream. Thank you everybody for watching today's YouTube video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, and while you're down there, please consider leaving your thoughts down below, and I'd also be interested to see what slopics you want me to cover in the future, so as well, alongside your thoughts on this, please let me know what you want me to cover. But I've been your host Samuel, and I will catch you in the next slop video. Goodbye.